Sharkie Gamer here. So today we're taking a look at a sewing machine. Yes, you heard me right. I said a sewing machine. But the sewing machine is a bit special. You see, the sewing machine plugs into Gameboy Color. So it actually makes this a controller for Game Boy. So this is the Singer IZEK digital sewing machine for Gameboy Color. So let's take a look at the box. It's got the Singer logo, and as you know, Singer is a very well-known sewing machine brand. It says IZEK digital sewing machine, and it's got a picture of the actual sewing machine as well as the Game Boy Color unit that's plugged into the sewing machine. Down the side here it says Game Boy Color and stitch cartridge included, over 100 stitch functions, 3 styles of letters and numbers, 5 buttonhole styles, memory available to save favorite stitch combinations, instructional video included. And on this side it's also got a little logo that says Singer 150th anniversary. On the side of the box, it again shows the logos, shows a little picture there, and doesn't really show too much else. On the other side, it again shows that same sort of picture with it plugged in, and then here it shows the styles of stitching available. And also some lettering and stuff like that. On the back of the box, it shows you the Singer machine again, and it shows you a bit more details. Everything's numbered, so it shows you a bit of stuff, and it's got the details down here, which I am just going to read. 1. Removable extension table for free arm sewing, also includes accessory storage areas. 2. Automatic needle threader for quick, easy threading every time. 3. Front drop-in bobbin for easy viewing and changing, no separate bobbin case to remove. 4. One-step buttonhole, easy and convenient stitching on any fabric. Sewing speed control, adjust easy, consistent sewing speed. Interacts with the enclosed Nintendo Game Boy Color and stitch cartridge. Needle up, needle down feature allows needle to stop in the down position to easy turn corners and adjust fabric. So it numbers everything on here and shows everything that you can use. And just take a quick note of this price here. This has the original price when it was brand new. It says $299.99, so $300 this thing was when it was brand new. So that was the original price when this was a unit in the shop for sale. Okay, so that was the box. I'm just going to put that down. I have already taken the sewing machine out just because it's a really heavy unit. So I've got it over here. And this is a really heavy machine. There it is. It looks pretty cool. Looks kind of like a modern design. But that is the Singer sewing machine. Now I'll show you what comes in the box. So you get the machine. But you also do get a foot pedal. You get a foot pedal. You of course get the game cartridge that goes into the Game Boy Color, which is sewing machine operation software. You get this bag of little sewing machine bits and pieces. I don't really know the terminology of it, but they're all like tools and I think bobbins and needles and stuff like that. So you get a bit of an accessory kind of bag there for the sewing machine. And of course you get the Game Boy Color system here, boxed. And as you can see, the Game Boy matches the machine, same color. So, it's pretty cool how they match the color. And you also get a manual. So it's a nice thick manual. Half of it is English and the other half I think is German. I think it's German. So we'll have a quick look at it because it has a lot of interesting stuff in here. Definitely something that would get you set up when you first got this machine. So it covers a lot of stuff. You got your introduction, got your little run around the machine, tells you all the parts of the machine, how to connect things. Test sewing. And of course it shows you the Game Boy, how to plug the cartridge in, shows you the system there, how to connect the machine to the Game Boy, So it shows you a bit of stuff there. And of course, yeah, it shows you a lot of the operation menus on the Game Boy cartridge. Where to go, how to get to certain things. So quite a lot of detail in this thing. It pretty much shows every menu you can imagine in that software. Stitching. Buttonhole. Caring for your machine. Error messages. Performance, and of course it goes to the other German side after that. So a really comprehensive manual, that thing. Alright, so this is basically what you get in this thing. You get the sewing machine, you get the manual, you get the foot pedal, you get the little accessory bag there of bits for the sewing machine, and you get the Game Boy Color system. And of course you get a power cable, which is in that compartment there, which I'll show in just a second. You also get one thing which I don't have, and that's the VHS instructional tape. It was just a tape that had an instructional video on how to get started, how to use it. Probably have similar information to what the manual has, just more visual. So yeah, this is what you get in the box of this machine. Now I'm going to have a closer look at each individual part here, and I'm going to try to show the sewing machine as best I can. But just remember, I know absolutely nothing about sewing. I bought this for my collection. It is a Game Boy controller. It's an awesome, really huge Game Boy controller, but it is a Game Boy controller. And I bought it solely for my collection because it is very rare and hard to find. But I know absolutely nothing about sewing at all, or machines, or the terminology, or anything. But I'm going to attempt this. I'm going to give it my good shot. Okay, so let's go for it. Let's have a look at the machine first. Okay, so this is the machine. So like I said, it's a very heavy machine. Very good quality. You can see the Singer brand there. And Singer is a very well-known sewing machine maker, so it's a very high-quality machine. It looks really modern. Design is quite a modern design. Down here you've got buttons, and I'm assuming they control the needle. And also here there's a lever, little style there. Going down you can see the needle just there. And there's compartments there. Over the side here you've got a speed control. And I think that's the speed of the needle, or the way it pulls the material, or something like that. Down here you've got the Singer 150th anniversary logo. Moving up to the top, you've got a button here. If you press it, it opens up this area, which I think is where all your needles and bobbins and bits and pieces like that go up here. And of course at the end here this thing turns, which turns this thing. And I think that's to do with cotton. So that's the side image there. That's what the front of the machine looks like. That's what the other side looks like. And before I show you the rear of it, I'll just show you this front thing. This thing actually pulls out. And it's like an extension table or something, I think, for material. And also on these sides, there's a compartment there. I'll get this in. And there's a compartment on this side. And that, of course, has power cable. And of course, if you didn't have the power cable in there, so you're using this, you of course could use these compartments to store the little bobbins and accessories, or your cotton, or anything like that in the actual compartments. Moving on to the back of the machine. So this is the back of the machine, and we'll take a close look down here. So down here you've got your connection for your power cable, you've got your power switch, you've got a connection here for the foot pedal, and you've also got a compartment here. If you open this up, it reveals the cable that connects to your Game Boy system. So that's what plugs into your Game Boy. And of course you can store that away when you're not using it in this little compartment, so it's safe out of the way, because you can use this as a full sewing machine. You don't actually have to plug the Game Boy in there to use it. So that is the machine. So very kind of cool looking modern sewing machine, that. And of course the next thing, you do get a foot pedal with it. And this foot pedal of course plugs into the back there when I showed you earlier. And of course you get these bits and pieces. Give you a closer look at some of them. There's these reels. I think they're like bobbins or something, I don't know. Needles. And you've got little adjustment tools in here. I think they're just tools to adjust to certain things in the machine. I don't really know the terminology, but it's all like bits and pieces in here that you use with the sewing machine. And of course you get the cartridge, which is Sewing Machine Operation Software. And you get the Game Boy Color system. So now I'm going to plug the cartridge into the system and give you a bit of a look at all the menus and what you can actually do with it. Okay. So it comes up like it, sewing operation, press start. And first it asks you what language, so we go English. And this is the main menu. So it's got patterns, buttonholes, letters, favorites, custom, and colors. So if we go into patterns, it's asked you single pattern or combination. So we just go to single pattern for now. And it gives you a list of different types of stitches and patterns there. And if you just choose one, you can choose a second one as well, just in the corner there. So I'll just do that one again. And it asks you like how thick, how width, so length and width of it, how thick and wide. Just go OK. And it tells you what pattern number it is and what you want to do. Do you want to do data transfer? Do you want to add to favorites, or do you want to return? So if we just go data transfer, just to show you what it looks like, if this... Now I don't have the machine plugged in, so it's actually going to give me an error at the end of this, but it does show the instructions. So let's go get data transfer. And it says C setup guide, and we go yes. So it's saying connect the power plug to the machine. Connect Game Boy. Turn on power switch. Set thread spool, which is the top there. Thread robin thread. Thread top thread. Pick up bobbin thread. Place fabric under pressure foot. Ready to sew. Now when I press next, it's going to give me an error. So I'm just going to turn it on and turn it off again, just to show you the next menu, because I don't actually have the sewing machine plugged in, so that's why it's giving me that error. But normally, of course, if you had it plugged in, and when you actually go submit, it would send that data, what you want to do, to the machine, and then you can start sewing. So of course we'll go to English again, and back into patterns, and there's also combinations here, which you can set multiple combinations. There's a thing here, it shows 3 slots, and so you can go up here, and you can set each slot. So you can say, okay, I want that one, or that one. And you can set different slots, and of course you can go through the same thing of pattern width and length and etc. The next one down is buttonholes, and it gives you quite a little choice of buttonholes here. So you get 5 different buttonhole types. If you go into it again, it shows density and width, and you can set wide or narrow. And then it asks you to transfer the data again. Then it's got letters, and letters, you got your normal alphabet here. Those are capitals. You've got like lowercase, and you've also got like cursive writing there, or script. Lowercase, block type letters with nothing in the center, and of course numbers and a bit of symbols. And of course you can do the same thing with that. If I just go back into there, I'll just pick A. Actually, we'll do this. Just know you can actually write words here. Alright, and if you go next, then you can adjust the spacing of the letters. And of course, then you can send it to the machine and everything like that. The next one is favorites. Now, favorites is where you can add patterns, letters, or you can customize something and then save it into the memory so it's there in case you want to use it again. Custom again is a way to customize things, and this is sort of like drawing because you've got all this choice here of these different shapes and angles, and you can press it down and then you can go to the next one like this, and you can move it down, move it around, go to the next one, and you can sort of make some sort of an image there. And move it around to where you want to move it. Copy it, and so forth. So it allows you to actually just make a bit of customization there on the stitching that you want to stitch. And of course you've got colors here, which is thread fabric and also the colors of it. And of course you can go here and select a different color there. For instance, you can go thread, something like that. So you can select a bit of colors and fabric there. And of course you use all these menus in conjunction with each other to get what you want, the stitching, buttonholes, patterns, colors, etc. And then of course you send that data to the machine. Just turn this off. And of course you plug the machine in just the side here. So I just pull this cable out that I mentioned earlier. This cable plugs into the side of the Game Boy, just like that. So that is the machine now plugged in to the Game Boy. So really simple. It's got quite a long cable there as well. So you can actually have this a little ways away from the machine if you want to, or you can have it right next to the machine. And it's really cool. It looks like a matching set. So I think that's cool how they included the same kind of color. But yeah, so you can imagine this machine has pretty much endless possibilities in terms of helping you do your stitching, change your thread, send the data to the machine. And it's basically taking advantage of the Game Boy being like a small computer. So it's utilizing the fact that the Game Boy is smart, it can do this type of thing, and it can send the data to the machine. And of course, back when this was released, this was probably marketed to like parents that wanted to get their kids into sewing. Because I think it got to that point where people weren't sewing as much, and they weren't buying machines, they were just buying clothes because they were so cheap. And Singer thought, okay, what can we do to market this kind of generation, or the next generation? And that's combining it with a Game Boy. So it's quite a clever strategy when you think about it, because that way parents that want to get their kids into sewing, they buy them the system, the Game Boy and the video and the manual. It all teaches the kids how to sew, and of course it's a Game Boy, so it's a bit more sort of known to the kids because they've probably had a Game Boy or they have a Game Boy, and yeah, so it's a bit more known to them. So it's a really clever idea, and it is of course the biggest Game Boy controller that I have in my collection. I haven't really seen anything larger for the Game Boy, and it's quite impressive when you think of it. It's a sewing machine that plugs into your Game Boy, and the Game Boy is such a small machine too. So it's a sewing machine that plugs into your Game Boy. I know, it's a crazy concept, and it's probably the craziest controller, the biggest controller for the Game Boy. And it's probably also one of the rarest ones, because this thing is pretty rare, especially to find this anniversary set that comes with everything, including the Game Boy. You can buy the sewing machine on its own, I think, and I think there's a slightly different model that also has a Game Boy connection model, but I'm not really sure. But this model, and this is the anniversary edition, which comes with the Game Boy Color system, sewing machine, and all the other stuff as well. And of course, it comes with that cartridge that's in here, which allows you to then do all the patterns and everything with it. So this is the big collection. This collection on its own is pretty rare to find, especially boxed with all the little bits and pieces, because a lot of the bits and pieces get lost after a while. And I've heard a lot of the foot pedals not working. So probably the most common thing of this machine not working is the foot pedal. But otherwise, you don't see it very often. When you do see it, it still ranges between like $150 to $200 to buy it. I know on the box it said like it was $300 new, which is about right. But this is $150 to $200 to buy. But if you're not in the United States and you're international and you buy one of these things, shipping costs a lot. I paid about $120 price for this thing, but I paid probably well over $100 shipping on it alone. And that's from the United States to Australia. So shipping will set you back on one of these things more than probably the item price will. But sometimes you can get it cheaper, it just depends. Usually you can find these on eBay. And of course they are a big gaming Game Boy collectible now. Pretty rare, hard to find. And it's a very impressive Game Boy controller. Very impressive. Even if you're not in sewing, if you are really a fan of Game Boy, then you need to have this in your Game Boy collection. It is a part of Game Boy history. And I know it's an expensive sewing machine, and even if you don't use it, like, I would never use a sewing machine as a sewing machine. I haven't attempted because I know nothing about sewing, but it's still cool in my collection because it is a rare gaming collectible for Game Boy, and it is the most impressive Game Boy accessory that I own in my collection. So yeah, quite a cool little bundle this. Anyway guys, that's about all I can say about this one. It's a really awesome accessory, very rare. And I really, again, I like how they've actually included the Game Boy to match. It looks so cool to have like a matching set like that. It's pretty awesome. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. I am Sharkie Gamer. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll have heaps more controller and accessory videos up very shortly. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you would like to, and if you like this video then hit that like button. It really helps out a lot guys. Thanks for watching.